But we start with literal equations. They will give you an equation with all variables, and they will tell you which variable they want you to get by itself. So the first thing you need to make sure is that you know what variable you're getting by itself. In this case, we're getting x. So we need x to be completely by itself. In order to do that, we have to get rid of anything that is not the x on that side. So we have m plus x equals n plus p. I want to get rid of this m. To get rid of it, it's just being added or subtracted, right? So in this case, we want to subtract. It zeroes out. We need to subtract it on this side, and that's actually your answer. X is going to equal n plus p minus m. You'll notice that it has a minus m plus n plus p. As long as the negative is with the m and the positives are with the n and the p, it doesn't matter what order it's in, okay? So if you look at your review sheet and you have it like this and they have it like that, as long as that negative is with the m, you're okay. All right. Number 7 is a little more in detailed. For this one, you will notice that we are solving for a, and the fact is we actually have 2 a's. So anytime you have something like this, you want to get everything that has an a together. So if I look at this one here, I have a z plus an ma equals ba. All right. I actually want that ma to be on the same side as the ba. So I am just going to subtract the ma. All right. So now I just have the z over here, and I have ba minus ma. Distribution says that that's the same thing as putting an a on the outside of a parentheses. I can rewrite the right side and take the a and put it on the outside since it's multiplying both of those. And I will just have the b and the m left. And when you have something like this, you can actually divide by the entire group. B minus m. Divide by the whole group. It cancels. B minus m. And now I have my a completely by itself. Once again, you'll see for some reason the answer key has a negative m plus b, and I put b minus m. Those are the same things. Those are the same things. All right. 3 different types. You can have just a monomial, right? One term over one term equals one term over one term. Or you can have something like this where one of your guys has a binomial, or you could even have it where 2 of them have binomials, okay? For all of these, you can solve by cross multiplication. So for this first one, I'm going to say 6 times r, that is 6r, equals 5 times 9. So I have 6r equals 45. Divide both sides by 6. Now, if it's a fraction like this and 45 is not divisible by 6, the only thing I need to check is, does something go into both of those? All right, and hopefully you can see that 3 goes into both of those. 4 plus 5 is 9, and then 6, of course, is divisible by 3. So divide by 3, you will get 15 here and 2 here, and that is your answer. You can just leave it just like that, 15 over 2. 15 over 2. All right. Your next type of ratio can look like this. Now, if you have a binomial, remember we are grouped. Even if you don't see grouping, when it is in a denominator like that, it is grouped. So 5 times that group equals 3 times the 10. When you have a group, we just did distribution the other way, pulling it out. We're going to do distribution this way, putting it in. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times negative 10 is negative 50. On the other side, you just have 3 times 10. All right. And then we are just going to add my 50 to both sides. It's going to cancel here. Add there. We get 5x on the left. Bring down your equal sign. We get 80 on the right. And then just divide both sides by that 5. And you will get that x equals 16. Once again, you have groups. Even if you don't see it, this is grouped and this is grouped. Cross multiplication still works. 3 times that group, v minus 1. equals 4 times that group, v plus 2. We have to use distribution on both sides. 3 times v, 3 times negative 1, 4 times v, and 4 times 2. Get my variables to one side, my numbers to the other. So we're going to get negative 1v equals 11. My last step here is to divide by that negative 1. And so your final answer here is going to be negative 11. All right, so here's the thing. My recommendation for my worksheets and for my quizzes is that you have either highlighters or colored pencils when you start doing shapes. And whether I teach you or not next year in geometry, I'm going to recommend you do the same thing, okay? Geometry and shapes, if you do not start getting used to using your resources like colored pencils or highlighters, you're not going to do as well, okay? The reason I say this is because orientation matters, okay? When you just look at this, you may assume certain things. You may assume that MN corresponds to RQ. But you have to look at the similarity statement, okay? Based on the similarity statement here, NM corresponds to PQ, okay? So I'm going to highlight those in a specific color. I'm going to say N to M corresponds P to Q. That's going to matter when I set this up, okay? I am going to look at the next one. M to L corresponds Q to R. M to L corresponds Q to R. It matters, okay? And that leaves just one. L to N corresponds R to P. So you cannot just look at it and say, well, it looks like those go together, all right? You have to put the correct corresponding lines together when you set up these fractions, okay? You'll notice there's a question mark. So where I don't know what the answer is, I put a variable, all right? I always put the smaller figure on top as the numerator and the larger figure's numbers as my denominator. That's how I do it. It doesn't matter. You could do the larger figure on top as long as the order that you start in is the order that you set the second one up in, okay? So if my x is what I'm missing, I'm going to put that in my numerator because that's my smaller figure. This x corresponds to the yellow line that I drew, 14. And then I can pick either of the other lines as long as I have both numbers. So now I need corresponding lines that both have numbers, okay? The only other line that both has numbers are my green ones, my RQ and my ML. Everybody see that? I can't use the other one because they don't have numbers. So my 10 is my smaller figure here. That was my numerator. My 20 is my smaller figure there. What do you think I'm going to do with that 10 over 20 before I cross multiply? Yeah, I'm going to reduce that guy. So what does he reduce to? 1/2. So I'm going to say x over 14 equals 1 over 2. You can either say 2 times what equals 14, or you can cross multiply. 2 times x equals 1 times 14. Divide both sides by that 2. You will realize that your side length is 7.